his body's too young to look like his, so mama went off and left him. Car. Is it fast enough so we can fly away? Still gotta make a decision. Leave tonight or let me die this way. So I remember we were driving in your car. Speed so fast it felt like I was drunk. City lights laid out before us, and your arm feeling nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. Be someone, be someone, be someone. You got a fast car. We go cruising, entertain ourselves. Still ain't got a job, so I work in the market as a checkout girl. I know things will get better. You'll find work and I'll get promoted, and we'll move out of the shelter, buy a bigger house, live in the suburbs. So I remember we were driving in your car. Speed so fast it felt like I was drunk. City lights laid out before us, and your arm feeling nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. Car. Now I got a job that pays all our bills. Stay out drinking late at the bar. See more of your friends than you do your kids. I always hope for better. Thought maybe together you and me find it. I got no plans, I ain't going nowhere. Take your fast car and keep on driving. So I remember we were driving in your car. Speed so fast it felt like I was drunk. City lights laid out before us, and your arm feeling nice wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
Paano? Kanipa inanaw, kakaskita kanipa uyak. First, I'd like to thank our Creator, our Heavenly Father. Kapitas siya kanutsuta. Epe mama uyak, that today is the day that the Lord has made for us to come together. And it's a very beautiful day. Ako mga before we start, I'm going to say a prayer. Kapenis nanditutan, even from before, I've been to meetings for many years, any kind of meeting that they had, the past and the present counselors, chief, I was always there to support our community, our Nhcn. So let us pray. Blessed are you, God, our Creator, maker of heaven and earth. You have chosen us to be your people and to give you glory in everything we do. Bless us and be with us during this meeting, which will bring many people together. Help us to meet one another in joy and to work together for your glory and the benefit of our community. We praise your name forever. Amen.
Thank you, Ina. My name is Christo Spies. Nimusumaihaw. Tulas makibig istingaso. Nugo maihaw. Alice Apitag and istingaso. Joan Spies was my mom. I got asked to come and moderate this meeting, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I'm here to help people out. And I guess the purpose of the meeting is to allow people a chance to speak up and give opinions on the things we've been seeing happening since the last election. We have some presenters that are going to present later on. You all got the agenda. I think many people got the agenda. And I think there's going to be papers sent around, Sam, is that what you said? For if you have questions, write it on a piece of paper and get it up to us, and we'll read out the questions as we go along. If you don't want to speak on the mic, that is, but there's that opportunity you get to speak on the mic as well. So it says here, we're going to start with remarks from elders. So where do we want to start? Okay, there.
Este, no es como una apetito magabian aquí enviaron un meeting para permanent sumamitente no da balstaya alam liminentien uskat sak we know etingana bitik umaga lagi tanwa. Egenak, ada 75 toskinan. Egenak semua basten, misted, uskat lagi bastatik, ewa bastama, anhiuta lagi mastlegat tigi, and we know, now sunigechek wenmo, kawi, kaisi itentahik. Some baston no. As we look back, kaya, I'm talking about 1970. Was kinigit a young man, kinigan tayo nore house in Inwa. Ego late Ken Albert, kigos kitaw. Minigan tahat as a chief. I go to Mitani, imminenten, a wap magic, Uskachak, Etinigani chick. Kiam, Uskachak Pasico, with Tamuk, Kinawao, Kawiti Mutik, Nigani. Kinawao, Anima, Mishamamitinen Tamuk. Tansi, Sishamino panic, Kitswas and Miswell, Minagus and Wallach. Ayan. Muna mina kaya si Tentagon, a young counselor, Hegiat. Egi Minigan Chicago. Ego Samantha, the youngest counselor, he got kicked out. I'm encouraging these young men and women. Pinag-istabaw. Kana manatu, ayamik kigon, kasi pagusya ni muyik. Ni poik, pestagusik. Thank you so much.
Thank you. As you know, Eska.
Ako kanina kapitel. I didn't know I was going to speak again. Ayo, kay Tianis for when I started. You know, I've been to meetings for many years. Any kind of meeting that they had, the leaders, kapingin 10 to 10, just to be there to listen and support isa. But I never got involved. Ginto 10 po ko. Ginto 10, ito pa 10. And then one time, I was asked to be an elder council. Nanas ko man ako nema, I was there. Mo nakiton, ako spi. Eka, ojitotak, udatos kain, kimakan. And remembering back, well, I was born in Cross Lake. Remembering one chief before in Cross Lake, and totoo kay Yamit Yosi said, kape na may nes kakawin. Ako maka mo na nantan tenitan ito. Ito, because anyone that is a chief or leader or a counselor, most regards, kita utsiminan ni mau kape kita nagiskam gekon. That's what he said. Today, I see that still. Not just there. And I don't look at Facebook because ekaisanista. Eminopisinan. Takanopataman ekota nantoaitito naniwak. And we were at Nhcn before supporting Mrs. Naniwak. And we were hoping Nisnan to get Tina Sipekuan. I wanted at least a quorum of women council there. Akamina Uskatsak. And it was good to have one or two a little older to help with the new ones. And you know what? We have to give them a chance. We have to give them a chance. Just like us, Nisnan. You know what? I'm not working for money. Ever since I served as a volunteer minister, I never get a cent. How many years? Miyatos kataman with our community. Miyato, nuichimatomawak, kitimakichikinyok. It's not about money. It's about umakawipetamak, kweskitaki, wichitokamakak, our nation, our Norway house pan. Tayo ka kwensito tamake ko muna may neuto na niwak. Muna kaya kwan, takiya ako, kaya kwan takiut siya sena ako. Okay, kakiut nitsi kakiut nitsi tanikanis tamako ako. A few words po kunis state yan, isimin ko isyan. Eko si Mantuel, bless us all this afternoon.
Thank you so much. Your turn, Kinaga.
Good evening. Good afternoon. Good evening. Kami nagkikistoy sa kanto tamig. Anmote kaya yakikiwak. Tas we need tagos to so that me kanini tagos to go. We have to keep praying for each other. We have to keep praying for them. 4 years is quite a long time when somebody got a hard times. But there's going to have a lot of discouragement along the way. And there are a lot of times they're going to feel they're going to quit, or they're just going to walk away. They're going to think that why should I here? What I'm doing here? That's what they're going to think a lot of times because they got discouraged. But we have to encourage them, not to get, just to keep on. Because people ask them to make even counselors. There's a new one, I was really proud of them, and I gave those ones that was there before. I was glad I could take a go before we know I could at least you what's been going on for many years, I should say 8 years or 4 years. We know it's a tight tamatic. I guess at Tawani how to help people. I know there's people going to be going over there, ask something from them. And there are a lot of times they can't just give them anything. Because they had to ask all the counselors, chief and council, if they could give, if there's money for the community, for Noria's community, to get what they ask for. Kami na kisna na yun sa ijat kita pinanaw ta people in need in many ways. Meet semino and some of you I would sing out se. Kaya kanya ekita matchik sa miseto like doors, windows, and doorknobs and so on. Those small stuff. And there's a lot of times they turned away and the money because there's no money. It's been like that for a long time. There's a hole in the pizza panani agusa. Stay man pizza panano Norios from way back. Kaya suutse. Manego enak. Magakayasutse. All over. Other communities pinagisto gusto pizza panyuak. Ang ano po ko, waniganiw po ko, they have to know. We saw, they say, papagwanatsik when they're given money. Or so much money they given like April money ma kapag it needs sunya. They have to sit down. Tawitagik was that money going to be going. They have to pay the bills. Stay on the pagik. Not even kinanagis what they have to pay. Stay on the pagik. Little by little. I used to say ganit manuma. I guess kawit the pagik. You stay segiat sanitsuagan business. Ang kamistagi mas sanay all over equipment, parts, kaganagaywan. So we have to look at it. Kanya po ani the bag so much for a month. So we'll have enough. Nistangit tigis kanita na wana wipat tagsa kanop mita sa sunya. Tagsa tipaygat tasawyak, tanitat tipaygat tawyak. Pagod tanitat tipaygat tawyak, yakutawit siya. Eko tawit siya na tepan yung kitepan hitama ko inano sunya. Pagkatan nakatsitaw takanaw pa tago meno. Diyos ko ni kanyo. Nistamana kaya kanao magmana nitsawakan. Ani kaya ko ani masanigat. Pagkatan tepa manuma. You have to, or they're going to turn away. You're going to be turned away. Much ka naging tutaman. Much ka naging masanigan. Awasame. Kanya po tanita te paigin gita. Because that's what I was taught. I was only 12 years old. Kaya tamagaw yan ako. When my dad was a good trapper. This time I nagkikaskit sige mano, a trapper it. He wasn't a fisherman but a trapper. Ang kanya man ay yung ente pagit na at manatay. Kaya ni manuso niya mahagay. This is what I'm going to pay. This is what I have to pay. And I will have a little bit left over. And he said to us, in the future, pukatanita te pay again. Pukaka pay that te pay again. If you promise somebody to pay this tomorrow, I said, what's the put tomorrow? You have to pay that. Kuchagai said. Kuchagai tiwag. And my father never go to school in his life. Most of the school you. It's only apat day. I go to public school it apat day. But he had a lot of wisdom. Because the elders, they can eat tayo ikot. They got tayo suot na wisdom. And he always talked to us. He got tayo suot naman is my wisdom. He used to talk to us in the mornings. He got siya tuot naman. Just mat siya net ni ganik. So I did. But a lot of things. Nistas ka. Get the yagan sa nistas ka. Get the one for a while anyway, kakiton. Magay nagape, you can mawag to my family after come first. So that's like ayawa, chief and council. And you got ni good chicken niwa, put on off magic, bitama. You can put on off magic, nothing else. I go say, God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Darlene.
Good evening. Ito miskat na aga kinaginawan do temak. Niwaga umaganak. Stay gon. Ni mamit nenten. Tansi umawit yan. Gani mots ke gani kiskisin me gods. Esami stay gon. Tagisi ani mots ka te gota. Maga stay gon Hispano. Aspen agi wanasone takimagan mina wanaswewin nok. Egenagi sa poe wabattaman. Misted appeals yan wagi. Nistang you stand, but mine God denied. Manamanantang o si ten, I didn't feel bitter about it. Sige ma, ni ten that tiwabat to make me sauce. Guys, panik o mamigots. Mistake on, managegon, kwita magay no. Ego taus tiapiak. Mistake kiswaswak. Mistake nanta dito ako on Facebook. Manamay nego nantaw, kana nanta identamok. Kagiminos tana oma. Kagiminos tana oma. Kaya sta Hispanic. Kisa aspen pogo. O kimagaan. Minawanaswewin noak. Witap ni ko yagok. Kanage once a month. Nanta na every 2 months. Ikusitay sa menopanipan. Witamagawiyak. Minawisto managers, directors, managiskenta magdanse. Dante ispanit sonyaw. Egoy nang giwapat, tenis te ko tagiapian. Maga, niganig tayo sa kinabattamak. Itsawas sa misnana gosche. Minagos sa minanak, minantans ko to apananak. Minani mo sa skata gosik. Takitimagisit sigote. Tapi umagait yan. Itigati wantan our treaty rights. Niganik. Kustati kan. Ikusitag-Hispanik. So tinamistay mistigoso. Pemana eskago yakutay kagiti penimigoyak. Agagina no ma our law. This election. EPA Procedure Act. Kinanaw ma. Manina pito sawiyak. Tanto tago yagok po ko kumagaan minawanaswewin wag mina EPA committee wistawa. Kanik po tago yagok. Sige ma, kinanaw agiwanasunaya ko Chief and Council. Mina kayas ya chimochigo nichiskewak. Kayas pan meeting yanwak. Kimamo apuak si Pigoste, Mission Island, Jack River, Rossville. Piagan kisikinap mituak. Age waninot o kimagan se magipasigo kiseno natano chigeso. Kiwita mo yun o kimagana. Mohamed nas Christi naskosis tonaha o kimagana tawanaswewin no. Misteto ang idotan pan council meetings managit kate gyuta. Tansita Swetsk. Nanto misinigitik minanaha. Agi pemas namoit. You can take it to the federal court. Gitik. Manamani santoso niamin. Tayo to taan further. Bista ego si Hispanogitin ni menanak. Ego si tawak ego ta kas chisigik. Ego si district. Women, youth, and I don't want to say but they're past counselors, they have experience. Say gani go. Ego say tige po tagi sa minopanik. Kapeho na o. Dahil sige isiwa na sway chiko. Magane ma EPA. Tapetan wag po na meeting. Kinano kawanastano. Kinano ka masinaheno. Tansi siya gawat tamak. Sige mamiste tog minawanas ay hawa kuskatsak. Na may sa online. It will be up to the people what they want to do. Ego nema. taminosin na tutsigatik. Monina, winawa o gimagan minawana no. Bring it to the people and we'll vote on it and talk about it. Monina gonanto. Maga, as long as the majority of the people say yes or no, whatever it will be the people's law. It's the people's law. Muni name is the gozog, muni lawyers. It's us, it's a mistake kape. Gawa swat tiga ino kape. Kung kape tamaga wiyak, this is how you should live. We lived like that. Residential schools, foster homes. We always had to obey rules. But we're adults now. We have families. We live here. We shouldn't be told what to do anymore. And live in a peaceful environment. Kanisa yo mistake dati pagotit tanano agota. Mistake kasi te mani datane sa pagatataya minanon. It's not that, you'll feel good. Matsaganina, amita kokme, I feel good. I'm letting it out. Not in an anger way, but in a good way. And you should do the same thing. Dogs and go on, I go out. Kisashin go on, giginomai go out. We tamagota tansi tagis panigaga. Natiminawa Nhcn scale. We started the biggest skate and looking forward to listening to the other people that are going to be presenting EPA and other things like that. Egasane.
Tanse. Nas komunistegi pesu isame gaya da pewitse hagi gogo aga mistahe tapwe no gan pagoswe we no tagitis kunigan na aga mune gusto tegi usis na go kifan kapegi peite gaina na usagi to en kistenta mo dapat staya for other people da witse gapo istaya hok da witse haya hok da sage haya hok aga no stansis na go Migis kinoma August katsak taisi nuutni keetsik taisi misvei taatsak viitsen siniuava aga muna menonago neugo aga mina kappegi bebehtieni beitonuah uskattis kaattiganawapmigonau there are future uskatsak kaganawapmigonau kapmahtaigonau kiitonuan misseeto tan siis nago kanost epaspehtaistik young people to be our council members. Note nawak, maine hawak. And I don't think that's fair for any one of them to go through that. Munagis kente no tan sismamitanin sikanayatsik tantiwaitis for the community. I think it's better to support our young people. Kapegon itono young people at tibimbatanwak. Agano sa timayne hoskatis egastata pihtigepit itatatuitsehat in a community. Tapoy kipe minupano kayas epewavistegat tega hinogegon evihtamastsiginenok tanse tispanigegon tansidastek. Munayag kumawin munawag nemistigoso ustipewanas tautagegon in our community. Agani po gado utak Ogimawin gibebihtige pagitniusunyawa in our community for us to manage the funds for our people, the needs of our people. Ego teta itapinano, ego sigisi kana bastigatio. Agonos, tanditige is panitsunyaw, amistigo supanga hinaut niwa ni hewina, kanawap mega hinogegon. Agogina na what do we have? We have nothing. We have no say. For our community, for our people. Mr. Kittimagis Oginok, Higanantaitigis, Naskutsik, and Tawentahiguitse Huewin, Munawi and Tagwak. And I think it's better to move on and keep on helping each other, support each other instead of fighting each other. Muna minawasin tsige mawasa Kristo, they pick up these words from the people a minute. Kabistawasak. Mse tombe tawa gayamit si Kristo bistawasak. Ego teut nakik matsiambuin. Tan sidati si pagoda si Kristo witsawaswawa. Ako muna ko te dagido tahaya ho kitsawa si misinog ko seminog. Kaya spuda migis kinomuaya ho tamawi tamuaya ho. Ang si puta gido tamahumaw tagitis ko ni ganda minatagagay minostayah. Tati suhiga pa yung magahuwa sa migitis ko ni ganda pahat sige kon kisipego tege. But it's going to be a rough journey bitama no make but it'll turn out kayas katis panugegon ispigi mino panigiga hinogegon. And I'm hoping egawa sa megita mainige to iyak minegata ya si testo tinino. Kiam kayas taya mito yak tan si dostato yak tan testo tiahuma. Kasi panganina kayo sa miskot tamana ka egumane ma EPN ma kinano ane ma kitayano kinano kitibente no ane ma kinano tagi wana style ho panuta in our community. Muna yak tagi baby tiget ta husket tape wana start ke gonong ta for us. It's the people that have to do that. We have a lot of well-educated people that can do that. That can rewrite the EPA. They have to come from the people. The words have to come from the people. Tan sigawi suwana static. Tan siya siagawatahik. Mina electoral officer. Muna wihatski do si no electoral officer from other place. We had this elder running the elections for so many years. But there's other lady that joined and helped out the elections. And these things can happen. These things can be brought back to our community, have our own electoral officer and train some people to go into it. But we need to change the EPA. Kinano, our words tastig weguta. Our request weguta tastig itan season tawenta how and what we want on that EPA. Kasi puta gise minastano kahinogegon and not to allow mistigu suta the baby tiges kegeta pe maine geta pe wanastamago yahegon. Kinano mar reserve. Chief and Council. Munat tibene miswag kinano gitibene mano kinano ga yanaya ho gutta pogotan dottahi ku istoge gon I district gon isip pagoseni mistik pago istawao tandottawa tsagininoa and I'm hoping that'll happen. Ego say se pagosenta manista kitagiti se mino panika hinoge gon koyas ke say se monena no din tuwini hise isa say mistahinogan enudin tonano. And I don't think that's fair for anybody in our community. Sige, mano nga ba 10 miseto sa gihuewin. Kaya gana ispanigo din in our community. Kakinagit ispaniho na ano, gagawit si haya hukuko kaya gana mani panigot sik. Agaminati din in our gawanin tamentahik. They go to Facebook and utamat sige gana tawit istik. And there's always somebody stepping in and they reach the families. You know, us people in Norway House have good hearts and a lot of faith in our people. And I'm hoping things will turn out quiet and support our young people. Kaya kung magawitita kami gahuta. Kasi isa pewita matagok nista. Inas komit na.
I would say thank you. We have some more elders out sitting around, so we're going to take the mic to them. I'll ask Peter Albert next, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Chris. Niistä verrastanuuttanusta. Eikä minä opisin näin kaitspanikin tästä vinna. Mistä hinvuutunaan on. Mistä hinvuutunaan no. Munego se tagi Hispanic. Kisagi to know. Kinabateno heda stop ya huta. Ekinamaentamach. O mga Hispaniuta. Mistahigin naman tamuin. Kaya, imamamit na tenong at tipis ko. Tan suma tag-Hispanigipan. How? Stahiyan mo sigat daw EPA. Egota, ininuak, kinanga kino, in a meeting like this, tagiya nawasuna ya hook. Egota tapichik. Muni na ya gatos ke dan to office. Muni na gutse. Tikema gatos ke dan office. Gesas pin mo na sa hengan so gimakan. Apuitas no tentam. Kapag ni gawin kanta gatos yan. GBS din was a Hispanic last election. Which said yeah, kaya vote to it electronic votes. Mistake been got taken into the garbage. Agora nice go agioba takademeno. Spiavi tak se magi pagedna. Monego se tak Hispanic. Facebook ni amestanan ma. Se magi pagedna. Aga mina yeho. Ewanema. The committee. Urta tagi na wasunisik. Muni anete office. Aga muna mina ya gatos kawat. The Green Nation. Aga no abaten mina urta EPA member. Piak. Doesn't even live here. Winnipeg yat. Ago tanema kasit venta munina Winnipeg. Ego mina piaga de magego. Monstragiao. Motagi no panui cat. Ego si segego angitas in Spanish. When I pung skente she's a member of you. Norah House. She's originally from Cross Lake. So I don't know whether she's a member of you or Cree Nation. Egumots minanawan. Ininwaka kinagawan tagiwan swaltahik. We've been suppressed so many times. All these last 8 years for sure. For the last 3 years, I've been asking Chief and Council, previous Chief and Council, to meet with them. For the last 3 years. That's way to put me on their agenda, one of their council meetings. What? I got it. One was they didn't want to meet with me. They wanted to go to. I wasn't going to go and ask for a house or something. I bought my own trailer at that time. I didn't wait for them to go. The meeting was going Yet I was Lamasun. I sent them about 12 years ago. Ago, my last 3 years, they didn't want to meet with me. She wanted to go stay. When I go to take a good Sihemun, again, take Takipanak, and you. Plans they're not going to get the skino. I could take it in the at the scott. I got 8 years ago, get a 10-point patient Sam, I go in a ladder. We don't need your services anymore. We're restructuring. Keep it dog. Pinawachi board ni up in Negospi. Good tak ladder got go panic. Now we're changing all the board members from the old Pinawachi guys. So I said, that's fine. I'm going to give to make Oscar one of the board members. I'm going to give me I actioned it now. He got 10 to go, he actioned it. Watch it though. He never wanted. See, I'm sorry to say this about our former chief. Same Maggie Bagitnik once he got in from my work and from the board. Coming back from Thompson one time, I received a call. I got in, Peter, we have to give you a check, the 2 weeks pay. According to you, Manitoba Labor Board it. So say, what does Manitoba have to do with this? This is federal. I got him, I wouldn't make it, and it's I got a guy next day. Got paid Namago, yeah, on a ladder. You know, signed this. I got a Kigoma and it Tahana, HR. I got the beat to go hot chief at council. So he won't sue them at the So right away I knew. Not because they were restructuring. So I told that HR, I said, well, I'm sorry, it's already in the works. I have a lawyer. So that way, they kept negotiating my lawyer and their negotiator. I'm going to get them on it and then the man. Peter, you're going to waste it, man. You got your own band. And then one of the chief and council, I beat to got your own band. So I phoned my negotiator. I got it. Stop negotiating anymore. Really? Why? You can go a lot further. So eat them all. I'm not going to sue my own band. Eat that. So that's where it stopped. So that way, the men opposition in Gadutta, and these elders who in the front garbage. Thank you very much for your wise words. I go, "Get on it, you know that." I go, thank you so much, people, and let's keep this up.
I can say thank you, Peter. So I'm going to go over here. Do you feel like saying something? No? Okay, I'll go on to it. Oh, there we go.
Distanta pinutayo on Elders Council listang yut ni kawin tapyan. Ako ni mga kapugo tamama otusyak. Kape ito ni wan kaya tutsak ka uskatsak. Ano po ito ni wan. Isbepito kaya pansik inino kita ni kan skawatsik inino. Ako nas pinagani uskatsak makito mis kumao. Kwani ko sani ke our future. Na future kawi at yapat siya ko. Mutasi ko tingin mo. Miyata kisyan tayo tasi tayo mutasi kin ayaw. Tingin mo. Miyat minutang kisyan mo. Inino kaya nasi tayo ni mo chik. Wawis may nawasak mas tayo ni mo. Vinagapaganashimut tatik. Aganistамутага певикиан. Kinsei sipi. Yipeto ok misetinenwag ennimutsik. Motsagimutsepeto aganashimut. Anuti geuma. Every year, kweskipanu. Aska kiwe panu. Aska asettigue. Kegisem nastanwag. Manamiatit we get at the sweet tagiso. Kewanit goche. I go every day. It's a kainotagapia. Kinatena anonima every day. Kinatena anima. Ayu kay tonwag. Get at senegute kay tute. Egutamago guskat sa kanten tagustik. Kita kisken tagik tansitaysi. Mutas gutin ni mo minuskatsak. Taini ni mo tutatsak egatawani kiskisnani wak. Taini mo tutatsak guskatsak lagiskinomatsak. But that language should come from whom? From whom? That's where it should come from. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You're absolutely right. I'm going to move on to see if I can find some more elders. I'm kind of scared to ask a few. I'm probably the same age as them. Would you like to say something? No? Okay. Who else? Oma? Bella? Is that her name? Kina? What's? Anybody else have something to say? Oh, you're not old enough, Charlie. Here you go.
Hello, my name is Charles Mitchell-Canepe. I'm a member of Norrie House First Nation. I huma kiditona aga peta in wanwa magamiset to skatsak muran sidotamak. So that's the way I was brought up in school. Murangu since sidoten in aganashi munanwa. So anus nistanwini nimon kaya sumaga ustipanikasa Election Procedure Act. That's when Peter was not elected to be in council anymore after Alan Ross left and Peter. And that's where this APA came. Agonigiteo Ronnie Evans Ogemahan with Bogotamino Stanwa Hakinagon. Agone, I have but they have lawyers to Manastati Gumenogoyas. Egatagi Pigo Negatic. Egawek tagi pigo na kumeno wana sway no gagi wana stanwa. Agone I have tangi tap magi Balfour late magi Balfour. Kiugema hanwa ki again sense of tamomeno tate gi si pasken pigo negate kuma tigema suha steak ega I have bought a wana swata kumeno giteo. Ogemahan. Agoda tu ogemahan ka pia pitewan egagoetsemak kapigo nena nema APA tagik. Ya, agoni febite bantiga bata hik mistahimas kawishi win mine go kanemeno paper no. Kai da stega nema we know about the one swata hik sigema inenuegi ut negotiktatus kawatik. Agoni ni nan po the one swata ma kumagit yaitiko. And I talked to other chiefs that came. Eric Abitagan Yamihau, he said he would do something about it. Mogusidutam once he found out that he had more power with that paper that was there. Same thing with Marshal Balfour. And I got to be together and it was the Larson. That's why this thing is there. And we tried long time ago when you go to Tanan, tagage minos taya homa, ininwag tagi minos tawagi tonwan. In the bottom line, ogemahan patima wina ito etita minos tayo homa, ego tage mino panik patima. And I think we have seasoned as a chief that's if she's willing to break this, APA should happen. But according to that, it gives a lot of power to the chief. So think about that. It was the old ladies that gave the power to the chief. I was there. There were only 30 of us. And of course, I voted no with Maki Balfour. And it became law. There's a lot of people that should have went to that meeting to understand this, what it was. The people that were in that meeting, I think 17 of them said, we'll take this and that's it. And I think it's about time that people come around and say things that should be real truth to the people that should have the power to fix this, but it doesn't seem that way. Once the smart lawyers got to this and write it, it was the councillors on Ronnie's group, when Ronnie was a chief. You talk to those councillors that were there, they were the ones that forced this to go to be like this, where the chief would have all the power. And I'm sorry to bring this up, but everybody's not, I don't know, everybody's not saying what they should have said. Like, nobody wants to say anything. I'll say it. I've been here 68 years, and I've been seeing a lot of stuff going on. And it's about time that us people that have lack of education, but we've been there doing stuff, working. And I've been working. I'm still working. And I work for the trappers, and I'm still there. I've been there 23 years, 24 years, and I talk to the chief. I talk to everybody. Everybody knows me all over. So I'm not scared to say what happened on APTA, on this thing that we're so scared that for it to change. We cannot change it as people, only the chief, according to what we understood back when we tried to change it. So thank you for listening to me. It's the first time that I stood up to say something about this. Thank you.
There you go, say Charlie. Okay, maybe we're going to move on a little bit here. We'll start getting to, I got to go look at the agenda again. I think, what was next, Sam?
So we're going to be changing the EPA and the committee first, because Jeff is in the meeting right now.
Okay. All right, I was thinking that. See? I was thinking that already. Okay, since we're on the topic of the EPA and getting lots of comments about it, we'll have some presentations on that EPA when we have a couple of people here that come to present. So, well, it's one person. So, but she's been around the EPA for a long time and she's quite versed in it. So I'll let her come up now. Pam Tate.
Thank you, Crystal. I'm very honored to stand before you to speak on the EPA. I was very touched because I come to you also as a concerned member, an advocate for my children, my grandchildren, and for those that can't speak for themselves or afraid to ask or speak publicly or on social media, because I do get a lot of questions, a lot of inquiries. I've been answering as best as I can. So I'm just gonna try and do a general overview and a little bit of information that, some facts, I guess you'd say. Roy Falster was also on the committee in 2022. He was the vice chairperson with me. I was the chairperson. Sherry Mino was the secretary, well, we didn't really need a treasurer, but, and then we had Gwen Apatagan, we had Eric Ross as a elder advisor, and Bessie Falster and Hilda Albert. We've still been communicating and speaking on the EPA. We're still strong advocates. We do speak when we get a chance. I'd like to acknowledge all the wise words that came from our elders. Those were deep and exactly how we've all been feeling. And the people that are sitting here, like, the support is phenomenal right now. And I'd like to acknowledge the ladies that put this meeting together. I haven't seen a public forum in a long, long time called by the people. I can't even remember when. I was speaking to another person about it, and they didn't remember when either. So I think it would be good to keep these up, maybe quarterly, every 6 months, just to keep us or everybody in check and an opportunity without being afraid to speak. I come to you also not as a professional about the EPA, but I served 3 terms on the Election Appeal Committee. There were previous situations where we had heard some and didn't get as complicated as it did in 2022. It's a rather simple document. It's 20 pages with some appendices. There's also the Norrie Cree Nation Policy and Procedure Manual. It makes a lot of reference to that document, and I couldn't get the sections that have it. And I'm not sure if it would be the same version that existed in 2022 as I had an official copy. There's a lot of duties and responsibilities there for the electoral officer. And because I believe in policies, procedures, laws, and consistency, Munagas kayag dutaw pitos inanoy durat kape ni pewabah tena na mais ayu yatus kyan. So, from 2022, from my own observations, we've seen 3 appeal committees. There was our group in 2022. After we were ousted, there was another group, and then the existing appeal committee right now. They have went through a couple coordinators, and I won't get into names. I think we all have an idea who they are. There were recommendations made from those 2 coordinators, and they weren't taken into consideration and not followed through. The chief and council didn't accept the recommendations despite all the public meetings that they had had. There was a steering committee. The steering committee acted as a public face to that EPA and opportunity. If there was public meetings, I am not exactly sure on the attendance or what the result was, but I was invited to attend a couple because at that time, when all that was going on, I was just tired of all the conflict, all the negativity, being called a liar, being called petty, it was really draining. And I saw many reasons to appeal NISTA this past election, but because of what I went through since 2022, I didn't have the energy to do that for another year or 2. It was extremely disappointing that they didn't take the recommendations from the coordinators and the steering committee that were hired to make those changes on our behalf. I took my role very seriously. I came with integrity, and that's what I abide by. I was raised by elders, who said to stand up for what I believe in, to stand up for what's right from wrong, and some things are clearly wrong. So I'm just going to speak a little about what is the Election Procedures Act. It's a law that governs how elections are run in our First Nation. What it covers is nominations, how candidates get on the ballot, the voting process, in person and mail-in. There is no online in the EPA. Election officials, roles and responsibilities. And I mentioned the policy and procedures of Northwest Cree Nation that had sections where it made reference to the elections officer. And there's a very small section for the Appeals Act. The Appeals Act is how results can be challenged and reviewed. There's also very strict timelines for every step. I actually had a discussion with somebody today about how they interpreted the timelines. So in the EPA, it states 30 days from when the appeal was received by the elections officer is when you start counting. So I'm not exactly sure, I'll just put an example. So if an appeal was received on March 20, you had till April 20 to hear it. You had the appeal, the EAC had until April 30th to make a decision, not from election day. That specifically comes from the EPA. Why it matters? If the EPA is followed properly, elections are fair, transparent, and defensible. If it is ignored or bent, you get exactly what we've all been describing: confusion, appeals, loss of trust, and questions about legitimacy. That's the straight truth. The EPA isn't just paperwork. It's a rule book that protects the people's vote. When people cut corners on it, they're not just breaking process, they're undermining the whole system. There have been a lot of confusion around this election process, and I want to take a moment to clarify something. We have two key laws that guide our elections: the Elections Procedures Act and the Election Appeal Act. And I tell you that Elections Appeal Act is very small. The EPA is a rule book on how election is conducted, the nominations, the voting, and how everything is supposed to be carried out from start to finish. There's no mention in there how one campaigns, but you should know the difference between campaigning and corruption. The Elections Appeal that word is going to give me nightmares. I swear it has. The Election Appeal Act comes into play after the election and exists to ensure that if something goes wrong, there is a fair and structured way to review concerns, hear appeals, and make decisions based on evidence and process. Both of these laws are there for one reason: to protect the integrity of the election and the voices of the people. When these processes are followed properly, the results are clear and defensible. When they are not, it creates loss of trust within the community. And that's what we're going through right now. It's not about winning or losing, it's about doing things the right way. Our community deserves transparency, accountability, and professionalism in every step of the process. And that is when we move forward with strength and unity. I'm just trying to think of what else I haven't mentioned. I want to invite Roy up here. I want him to say a few words too. So for more, I wanted just to mention what we're missing in the Election Appeal Act than the one page that's in the current document. It lays out a formal challenge for challenging election results. What it covers: who can file an appeal, the eligible voters, the candidates, anyone directly affected by the election. Grounds for appeal. You can't just appeal because you aren't happy. There has to be a reason, like violations of the EPA, corrupt practices and misconduct, errors in voting, counting, and process, and actions that could have affected the outcome. The timeline, as I described, the timeline is 30 days from when the electoral officer receives the appeal, 30 days to hear the appeal, 10 days to issue a decision. I don't think that was clarified anywhere, and I'm not sure if people are reading those sections. The appeals must be filed within a strict time window after the results are announced. Missing that deadline usually means the appeal is invalid. A group is formed to review appeals independently. They organize hearings, review evidence, and ask questions, often supported by legal counsel. Evidence is presented, witnesses may be called, everything should be documented and recorded. The committee can dismiss the appeal, uphold parts of it, and in serious cases order remedies, which could include recounts or a new election, depending on the severity. Where people get it wrong, and this matters, the act only works if timelines are respected, all appeals are handled consistently, and process is followed up step by step. And the simple way to think about it is the EPA is how the election is run. Election Appeal Act is problems with that election. So when we gathered, there was a lot of loopholes in the election. We made several notes, as probably the steering committee did, and we were still not heard. We had volunteered, me and Roy, because we knew the document, we had volunteered to be on the EAC also when we were rejected. The steering committee. So, yeah, it was quite the experience. It sure was an eye-opener for the status of our community members, our governance, and one of the reasons why I ran for council, because I believe that I could have been a voice for all. And I'm really looking forward to seeing this new council move forward. I'm looking forward to season serving us. Hopefully that's the way it goes. It's an opportunity for women. I'm big on equality, and I will do anything I can, Lisa, to support this group in any way I can. And I want Roy to speak a little bit on what his words are on his experience. I made sections, oh yeah, there was another couple sections I wanted to quote. So some of the issues that I seen online too were absentee voting, it's called. So within 3 days of the close of nomination, the electoral officer shall mail to all off-reserve electors a voter's identification form together with a ballot and a candidate listing and a secured ballot envelope. That wasn't happening. You had to call for your ballot, you had to email, and those emails weren't getting answered. I was getting a lot of inquiries about what to do, what does it say. What was the other thing? I gave you the timelines. Amendments. Proposed amendments will be presented to the people for discussion. Those meetings happened and they were rejected. The online voting was voted against. If we had our old-fashioned election following the EPA, we wouldn't be sitting here today, because that's what should have happened. It was simple. It would have been simple, not as complicated as what we experienced. There was proper notices. Oh, there was one here. There was inappropriate wording at the end of the at the end of making the amendments, it says chief and council will entertain a motion to accept or reject an amendment. That's not the proper word to use on a legal document, especially a law. Entertain. I was really appalled when I seen that. So hopefully moving forward, we got the changes EPA updated. I know a lot of people have done a lot of work, and hopefully they can come together again to change it. And yeah, strengthen it. Hopefully we don't have to see this mess again. And I'll let Roy speak.
Thank you, Pam. I'm Roy Falster. I'm from Rossville, Manitoba. My Bertha Falster was my mom. My dad. Bertha Falster was my mom. Papa Roy was my dad. My grandpa, Alec Duncan, was the chief of our community for 10 years. And from what I gather, he was a good chief and he heard his people. He'd go visiting and all that sort of stuff. I was born and raised in Norway House. And I was born and raised here. I'm proud to be a Norway House Cree Nation member. I'm thankful to the band for giving me and my family what they gave us. They gave us a home to live in. I got my education paid for. And because of that, I thought, okay, how can I give back to my community? So the way I give back to my community is by serving on boards or committees when I'm asked. I've been on several boards and committees in the past. I'm currently on some boards and committees. When I was asked to be on the appeal committee in 2022, I said, okay, I'll do it. I mean, there are probably not going to be any appeals anyway. Little did I know. When we went into the appeal, I'd like to point out too that because I've been on other boards and committees in the past, we've had board training, and there's sometimes legal representation to help. You're given official documents. And when we were asked to be on the appeal committee, we didn't know that we didn't get that training. We didn't get that committee training. And we also were given 2 separate election procedures acts. We got the one from 2005, was the one I know Charles is speaking of. And then we had another copy that was given to us. It was an amended one, but it wasn't official. We were given both of these to work from. And when we sat down in our meetings, because a lot of the only people that were aware or who knew of the Election Procedures Act were Pam and Eric. So for the rest of us, it was a learning thing. So when we had our meetings, we went through that Elections Procedures Act word by word, page by page. And we thought, okay, well, how do we interpret this? How can this be interpreted? And when we had the meetings, we said that we needed to work with good intention in our heart. We all sat down at the table and we said this, that we needed to work for our people, that we needed to follow our people's law, which is the EPA. And we wanted to do it for the children coming up, our children's children, the grandchildren, that sort of thing. And I said specifically to the committee, I said, let's be good elders, let's be good ancestors, so that when decisions are made in the future, they can look back and say our ancestors looked after us. I'd also like to say that being on that elections committee was really eye-opening. It was a very difficult learning process, and I know that we said that it was the people's law. We were going to follow the people's law, and we were going to honor our law. So that's what we did. That's what the committee did, the 2022 committee. Honored our people, honored its law. And when that was a hard decision to make because, it said that there was corrupt practices happening and that sort of stuff. And then we were taken to court. We were taken to court by our chief and our council, who asked us to do a job for them. They said, would you be on our appeal committee? I said, yeah. And then they turned around and they sued us for doing the job that they asked. When we did, it's so hard to articulate sometimes because I feel so passionate about it. So we were taken to court, and we had our lawyer at the time was Leah Ballantyne. She had worked with the appeal committee for the last elections back. So she was there for like about 10 years. So she knew our law and she knew our that sort of stuff. And one thing that I'm really bothered about this whole appeals was that she hasn't been paid. She was not paid by the band. Who they asked, she was our consultant, law consultant, we'll say. And to this date, she hasn't been paid yet, and I really would love to get her paid for doing the job that she did. None of this would be happening if they honored our people's law. None of this would be happening if they didn't take their people to court. None of this would be happening if they didn't use a white man's law to fight our law. If the decision in 2022 was upheld, I honestly believe that none of this would be happening. I'm just, and it's taken the whole committee. It's taken a lot of us. It's taken a lot of us. I can't even. My emotional health, my mental health, my physical health has suffered because of the bullying. I'll call it bullying that we were encountered. If you remember, they posted, well, so-and-so, the appeal committee owes Norrie House Cree Nation and so-and-so $10,000 and this $1,000, and this is what the white man's law says. It's not our people's law. It's taken a toll on the committee, but I stand here before you knowing that what I did and what the committee did that I stood with was right. We honored our law, we honored our people, and we honored the generations to come. And I think moving forward, even though I feel all sorts of stuff about this, I want to keep going because I know what's right and I know what's wrong. And because I was part of the process where it was wrong, I want to be able to make it right. So moving forward, I think as a people, as a Cree Nation, we need to move forward in a good way and move forward with the best interest of our people and move forward with the best interest of our youth, because we need to honor them and protect them because they're the ones who are going to be taking care of us when we're old. So we need to, give them that support. I'll go on. Thank you. And if you have questions, Pam and I are available. Charles? He asked how much did it cost for chief and council to go to court. I think it was over 300,000. 350,000 is what they used to, band funds they used to fight their people. Thank you.
Fancy that? Oh, I can't even hear. I'm deaf in one ear.
Use your teacher voice.
Hello, Charliette. I just wanted to find out how much it costs to fight our law. How much money did Chief and Council spend on you guys, on us?
Through hearsay, apparently the bill was $350,000. That's I haven't seen an actual invoice. I still have Leah Ballantyne's invoice for $48,000. She worked for us from April to late July. In July, after the decision came, she had to drop our file because she was being, it was an 8-to-1 deal, so 8 corporate lawyers versus our female Indigenous lawyer. And I still communicate with her, keep in touch, and just hoping that we can pay her bill too. I asked her to do a formal report on what had happened, and she hasn't gotten back to me yet. Yeah, a team of 8.
So 8 corporate lawyers.
Yeah.
Your one lawyer was $50,000.
Yeah.
So if you do the math, you don't need an invoice for anybody to tell us that if there are 8 corporate lawyers doing this work at $50,000 a piece, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's extremely complicated, and we still owe her money, and then in the back of my mind I carry that because I feel like I owe her personally. And if you have any more questions about our experience, and hopefully that we've made a movement today. I hope we've made a movement and that our voices will be heard by the current EAC. And like prayers up to them because that's a tough job. I'm still like coming down from my own experience. There's papers and pen by the door there if you have any more questions, if you don't want to speak up here.
I just wanted to, I'm just remembering the appeal that I sent. It was only aimed at Larson Anderson. And those male counselors took it upon themselves to fight the appeal committee and the band members in the federal court. And this was we were only asking that, the chief at the chief that was voted in 2022 to be, investigated, and the Election Procedure Act to be reviewed with, corrupt practices that Larson had done. So I just want you guys to know that these men supported Larson. They took us to court and the appeal committee. At the time, I didn't have funding. I didn't have money for, to pay for my own lawyer. My husband was fired the very next day of the 2022 elections. We had no income. So how could I have been able to apply for, any funding? They use our band funds to apply for lawyers. They didn't give me that opportunity. Yeah, those lawyers represent us. They shouldn't have fought us in court. Those lawyers are paid by our band funds, and they should not have fought us in court using our band monies. I just wanted to share that, and now we have, we have this new appeal coming up, and it's the same thing. If you guys if they want to fight us in court, they have to. Those lawyers that are being paid by our band funds have to step down, because we don't agree to using our band monies to fight our own people in court. That's all I want to say.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think we're going to suggest that we take a little break, but in a second, but I just want to thank Pam and Roy and all the others that were on that appeal committee in 2022. I've said it before and I'll say it again, you got it right. And we're sorry this happened. I am anyway. Thank you. So we'll take a little break. Oh, you're going to get somebody to do that? Okay.
So we're just going to bless the food. We're going to take a 10-minute break because we're going to have Jeff Ross, who's going to review the financial piece. So I'm going to get one of the elders if they can bless the food for us. And in 10 minutes, we'll come back and we'll have Jeff online to share the financial piece. Somebody?
Okay. Oh. Tawinan, sige so kakain. Pinanas komit na no tepe mamoyak. Tati sawenta man mamitsem. Tati se minaskako ak. Nyawanak tsakonak mina ni mamit nansiganak. Mina bless the hands that prepared this food no tawinan. Kinasawene mi go taiskewak mino na pewak that skenaganak. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Okay, so serve yourself. There's a soup and bannock there if you're hungry and have your health break. We'll be back in 10 minutes.
Stop until the bottle in the
Hi, is everybody full? So we did have an agenda that had Jeff Ross who's going to come and do a financial presentation for us, but he's unavailable this evening. So we're just going to carry on and we're going to let people express their opinions some more. So if you want to say something, just raise your hand and I'll bring you the mic. Okay? Who's first? Actually, I got this one question written, and I would have to read it, so I will read it. We can have a discussion on it. Anybody can put their opinion on it. So it's written. What was the appeal decision able to overrule the decision of the electoral officer on the ballot when it says that the decision's binding as it was stated in the election document. So somebody's asking why that one particular ballot we're all talking about, why was the appeal committee's decision not listened to? I guess that's what they're asking. Anybody have opinions? Go ahead.
So I'm just going to EPA, and I'm also a law student, so I kind of have some familiarity with reading documents like the EPA. That doesn't mean that this is legal advice or anything. I'm not here as a lawyer or any legal way. I'm just a concerned band member like you all are. And I just wanted to talk about that question. So that question states, why isn't the decision of the electoral officer final and binding? This actually comes from the EPA itself, and it says, sorry, let me just pull it up here. Give me 1 second. Okay, it says, the electoral officer shall not be bound by any rules of evidence, and the decision of the electoral officer shall be final and binding. This is 5.4 of the EPA. And it says, any appeal to court of law shall be founded in law and not in fact. And I think these people are asking this question because they're saying, how come we're questioning the authority of the electoral officer? And I think this points more to how the electoral officer conducted themselves. I know that there was concerns with how she did the election and things like that, but you gotta remember that being an electoral officer comes with duties and responsibilities that you learn in a professional setting. Like, she is equipped and she has the skills to conduct an election like this. And so when we questioned her decision making in calling that a spoiled ballot, in effect, when the appeal committee found that wasn't correct, they basically said, nope, Stephanie Connors, your decision in finding that spoiled ballot was wrong. This question is asking, well, why are we doing that? It says in our people's law, in our document, that this is supposed to be final and binding. So there's definitely a contradiction there. There's definitely two sides where, you know, we have the decision of electoral officer being questioned by our former chief, which raises questions about how this EPA is supposed to be followed. You know, we're not following it to the way that we should be, and there's lots of concerns, and I know right now we're all discussing about amending the EPA, and that's a big thing to do. That's gonna take a year, that's gonna take 2 years to meet with community members, to have discussions, to have your concerns properly heard. So right now, like, that's a long-term goal. Right now, what can we do here as concerned band members to address with these inadequacies that are in the EPA? And so I know that this is kind of this document is kind of sickening. It's not fully, what's the word, comprehensive. It's not fully outlined the way that it needs to be. And you can see that exactly with the appeals being heard today. There's certain deadlines that have to be followed that Pam was talking about that were not that they're contradicting each other, that we're having issues with. For example, hearing Larson's appeal happen in 30 days, and then making a decision on that appeal, which would us end up going to have a by-election, that contradicts the principles of fairness to hear Season's appeal and to hear all these other appeals. You know, we're running to a by-election and we're doing all these things because the EPA doesn't set these procedures properly. So it needs to be amended, yes, but what can we do here right now? Because we're all concerned with what's going to be happening. All these appeals are going to be heard in the next week. I think there's like 7 appeals that are going to be heard in the next week. And right now, we don't even know how the appeal committee conducts themselves. It's not written in the EPA, and it's not publicly available. One of the concerns that was brought up was, well, how come the hearings can't be public? How come community members can't go to them? And only some people, only the former chief and the current chief and council are invited to those hearings. But what about the rest of us? How do we make this appeal committee be accountable to all membership and the decisions that they make that are going to impact every single one of us? They're making their own rules and they're making their own discretions and they're being advised by a lawyer. And while that's important, what about the rest of us? We need to know how they're making their decisions. We need to hear their processes, their rationale. And it shouldn't be only founded in the law. The law is the white man's law. We need to hear from our perspectives. Anyways, so. Sorry, I'm getting emotional because there's lots of division, and we're not following what our people want. At the end of the day, we just want to be heard. We want all of our decision makings to be accounted for. We want to know what's going on, and we don't know what's going on. There's lots of backdoor deals happening, and they're hurting our people, and they're hurting our young ones. They're hurting my generation. And it's really concerning because what are we setting the example for my little brother, for my little cousins, for your grandchildren? We're fighting amongst each other because we just don't know what's going on. And it's hard to deal with that. It's hard for all these Facebook wars to be happening. It's hard for us to rely on these white Mistagusto lawyers. It's hard for us to understand how things are going on, and we just don't know. So I urge you all right now to think about what can we do. 5 people shouldn't be in full control of the decisions of these appeals. 5 people where I think 3 of them aren't even in Norrie House. They don't even live in Norrie House. Like, what about the representation of people on the ground? We have 8,000 people on reserve. I think we have a population of 12,000 people altogether. Yes, off-reserve peoples matter, but the representation of that committee doesn't fully represent all of us. What about LGBTQ representation on that committee? What about female representation? There's imbalances happening with that committee, and it's really troublesome because they were appointed by the last chief and council. That itself is a long-term goal for the appeal committee, or for the appeal to be amended, where we need that appeal committee. Half of them have to be elected. Half of them have to be chosen by our people. And maybe we have 2 of them appointed by chief and council. But right now, when you handpick your own committee to make decisions that are going to impact all 12,000 of us, I don't think that's right. And that's not a perspective that I have as a lawyer or soon-to-be lawyer. That's a perspective that I have as a band member who's so concerned about this process, because it's not right. Like I said.
Thank you, Julie, and you're right. You're so right. I also have a lot of concerns about what's been happening, Nista, seeing everything, and it really, really breaks my heart that this has occurred. I also put in an appeal. after seeing that 2 appeals were put in against 2 of our newly elected officials, I only thought that it was right that I put in an appeal as well. In my mind, I thought to myself, if they're going to be found guilty of corrupt practice, then what about everybody else? That would have included me, because I ran and I did some of those things that they're being accused of doing in corruption. So I said, that's not right. Obviously, it's a tactic to try and get rid of 2 council members so that others could come forward. I couldn't just sit there and watch that happen. I know I didn't get in. I was okay with that. I was fine. I believe that our people spoke in this election, and I respected that. I didn't cry. I didn't, oh my God, Mr. Hinidente, I didn't get in. I wasn't like that. I respected the people's votes. But I thought I have to stand up and stick up and by the people we voted in. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I, like Julie and everybody else is saying, it needs to be changed. And yes, those 5 people sitting there, I haven't heard from one of them. Not one of them messaged me or sent me a letter or said anything about the appeal I put in. You know the letters that I've been getting? They're all from lawyers. Not one of them has reached out to me to say, this is the process, this is what's going to happen. But no, these are the lawyers and these are who you need to talk to. I will go through with this because I think that I want to see how the process plays out, and I want to be able to, I'll tell you guys what happens once it's done, because I am here to report to you guys as a concerned band member. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Monina, I'm not here to fight against anybody. I'm not here to, say whatever. But I just thought that this isn't right. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
And lawyers cost money.
Yes. I don't have a lawyer.
Okay. I was speaking earlier with Roxanne over here, and we were talking about when I came to one of the meetings to listen, and when they were looking at amendments. When you read that EPA, and Pam alluded to it, it's at the end where the chief and council, regardless of what we do, have all these meetings and people vote on an amendment. In the end, it's in there that the chief and council can entertain and decide whether they want to accept it or not. So that's not the people's policy or the people's document, in my opinion. So I was talking about that with Roxanne, and if you don't mind telling us your opinion, what you gave us to us, do you mind? Feeling about what we can do, because no matter what we do, in the end, chief and council, there's a way to do it where we can circumvent that and get it back to the people, if you would, please.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Katie Saunders. I didn't get involved with band matters because a lot of years I worked with the band and I had wanted to remain neutral. I've worked at band membership. I had to learn the EPA, the Indian Act, and all the other different funding, and it's a very involved process. Now, the EPA, as I understood it, was first started, I can't remember the dates, but yeah, like Charlie said. And that's because chief and council had the opportunity to what is called step away from control of the band funds and band business from INAC. So this was the document that was offered. It's called being under Section 10. Now, when you go under Section 10, they had to come up with a document that says, okay, this is how we will govern ourselves, but the government you had to meet certain criteria, basically the white man way. So this document was drafted. I know Leonard Mackay, Harvey York, Leonard York, there was a lot of them that worked on it. And they made sure that those words of inherent sovereignty, all those things were there so that the goal was to amend our EPA so that we control of it to the people. Because right now, the way the EPA is written, chief and council can override. Yeah, they can follow all the steps, and we can say, yes, we want this, we want that. They don't have to listen to us. Chief and council have the ultimate say, because that's how the document was drafted. And it was drafted that way because it was INAC, Indian Affairs, that wanted it that way, because their ultimate goal is to colonize us, right? So back when I believe it was Ron Evans, when he was chief, he had asked me to look into how we can amend our Elections Procedures Act. So I did a lot of calling, I spoke to lawyers, I spoke to different branches of the government. And the way to do that is we follow the EPA. Chief and council propose an amendment to amend the EPA, and that's to take control through our sovereign right. Okay, and that's the only amendment that we need to put forward, that the chief and council have to put forward. Once that's done and it's approved and the minister sends that letter, that's it. It's given back to us and we can draft what we want. Okay, now the problem is, because it is open to chief and council having the final say no matter what we want, because they'll throw in other amendments that they want to do. And of course, people might not all agree with that. But I believe if we were to if a chief was to put forward that proposal just to amend the Indian Act so that we exercise our right to self-governance, then we have control over it. We can decide what that document will look like. And there's also the option of the people taking it back. If we have 50% plus one of all eligible voters saying that we have lost confidence in our council, our chief and council, that we want them removed, that we want to take over and amend our own laws. That's also a possibility. But if you have a chief and council that is willing to give up their control of their own agendas and keeping us in the dark, and yeah, that's what's happening right now. That EPA's been broken. They use lawyers to fight our own people. And that's where that, what is that, help me out somebody, where it says that will be final and binding and notwithstanding and will be founded in law, nor in fact. And that's the little loophole that people are using to go to the white man courts, because that's how our EPA is drafted. It's open for corruption. So yeah, we the people do have power to change it. And I think that's all I can say about that.
Thank you, Katie. We have knowledge among us everywhere. We don't even know it, eh? Thank you so much. And yeah, if we got a willing council and willing chief and council that are willing to make that change, it can happen, right? So especially with taking the power away from the chief and council and giving it back to the people. So anybody else got anything? Oh, hang on, one more thing.
Now, these these things that are found in law, all of them they have stipulations. Yes, you can do this amendment in the meantime until you change your EPA, till it's ratified in there. So they're not going to get that from us. Yeah. So we still do have power.
Okay. Perfect. Anybody else have opinions? Oh, here we go. Andrew Simpson.
Thank you. The EPA, I'm not in disagreement with changes need to be made in the EPA, because this EPA is so strong because it's been taken to the federal courts for so long, for the past 20, 25 years. We took it to the federal court because we didn't take the appeal committee to the federal court. We took the decision of the appeal committee back then. And any way you look at it, this EPA has so many flaws in it, and we do have the right to change it. We have that power, the people. But chief and council and the people have to come up with a solution on how to change it. Right? And the EPA has been in effect since 1994, I think, because we were under the Indian Act before that. Remember the 2-year terms we used to have? That was under the Indian Act. And then Chief Ron Evans at that time were going to a 4-year term, so we had to come up with an EPA to make that happen. And yes, there is a lot of problems with the EPA, but we're not going to fix it tonight. Right now, what's happening right now is that there's an appeal for giving out fish. What we need to do right now is to determine what is corrupt practice. And that's all we gotta, and the appeals going on right now are so stupid, but they have to go through. And until then, if it does go through, that we have because when you really look at it, if we don't have the runoff election for the 2 chiefs, we're going to be fighting for the next 4 years. And nothing's going to get done. And shit, man. Who's going to be hurting? It's going to be all of us. It's not just going to be the 2 chiefs that are running. It's going to be all of us. We're going to all feel it. Yeah, so it's a touchy subject, but that's the way it's got to go. And as for that, Tyler, Tim, and those are borderline corrupt practice, I'll say, which will determine on what is corrupt practice in our law. And even if we made the law ours, everybody has the right to appeal that law. And where do you appeal it to? The federal court. Because we're a federal entity. And this is not going to fix itself overnight. We got to take time and run with the appeals, and then we'll see. All right, so we gotta play it out, let it play out, and see what happens. Me, I don't think giving out fish is a corrupt practice. But in saying that, there was a video running around. What was said in that video will matter because I'll give you this fish for your vote. That is corrupt practice. All right? Because in the federal court ruling, when we went to court, the federal court ruling back then was that if one person comes up to you and says, I'll give you a house for your vote, and a letter to go with it, that's corrupt practice. But in saying that, giving out a fish, I don't know what happened, because if he said, give me your vote for that one fish, it is corrupt practice. And if he's found guilty, under our rules, Tim has a right to go to federal court and fight it there. That's the option we all have. It's called democracy. And as for Larson taking the appeal committee to court, that's not right. He took the decision of the appeal committee to the federal court, which is everybody's right. And Tim will have that right too. Like everybody else has that appeal, has that choice to take it to federal court. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, anybody else got any opinions? Reg? Oh, okay. I was going to ask you to stand up, but...
Tansa, me again. I just have one response to that. I thank you for your message, Andrew. I really appreciate hearing your perspective. I know you have a lot of experience in politics. You've been running for a long time. You're a concerned band member just like the rest of us. So I thank you for sharing your thoughts and your concerns. I just have one comment to make on your perspective there. I don't think we as Norrie House and Nilwak are a federal entity. I don't think Norrie House Cree Nation should be called a federal entity, or that we fall under that category of being called a federal board or a federal entity. We don't get who we are as Cree people, as Norrie House Cree people, from the government or from the law or from any court. We are Cree and we're Norrie House people because we have our own laws and our own traditions that we've been following for generations, which includes traditional foods, which includes feeding our people, feeding our pity, taking pity on one another, which includes, these things that you're talking about. So I disagree with you that, we have to be called a federal entity. That's not right to position us like that. We're Cree people to Norrie House, and we don't need Canada, we don't need a government, and we don't need any court to tell us who we are. Like I say.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else? Charlie? I hope this is still working. Still working?
Yeah, and I got to respond to it, Andrew said I did, that the Norrie House Cree Nation Chief and Council, and they assign a person, Nick, to look after the EPA. Give it to the people, and then we'll give it back to the chief and council. Back to chief and council what the people wanted. And one thing that they didn't want in the EPA was online voting. When they said that we don't want online voting, and it went to chief and council, and the chief and council said we're still going to have online voting regardless what you guys are saying. It went to the people, it went to the chief and council, and yet chief and council didn't do anything about the EPA, about online voting, which they had the opportunity to change it, but they didn't change it. And if they didn't change that thing, if they had changed it and say, okay, no online voting, things would have been different, Easter. We don't want online voting, but we got it anyway by chief and council.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else? Oh, we got a rebuttal.
Like online voting, we can vote it out that shouldn't be a problem, but there is a court case, Corbier decision, that happened in 2002 or something like that. That the people outside have the right to vote if you're a North House Cree Nation member. Mail-in ballots. We didn't have online voting back then. And online voting makes the elections easier, more controlled. But if you don't want online voting, that's up to us again to bring it up. But everybody's got to say yes. And if we say yes, what are the people outside of North House going to do? Like the 3 appeal committee members that live out of Winnipeg, according to this. And we have a problem with that. Yet our chief right now is living in Winnipeg. Don't we have a problem with that too? Because if we have a problem with the appeal committee living in Winnipeg, but our treaty band members, why aren't we having a problem with our current chief living in Winnipeg? You know, you gotta draw the line somewhere. But the EPA is a document that's being created. And by having these meetings, we can get to the bottom of this. And I commend the people that done this. But as a democracy, everybody has the right to vote. Everybody. And if online voting makes it easier, then yeah. Because when we voted this past election, we got an email right away saying that your vote has been successfully done, recorded, right? Everybody got that email. So in my eyes, online voting is a must for those people living out there that that can't come here and vote. We can't just look at ourselves that live in North House. We have to think of the people that live outside of North House, in Vancouver, in Ontario, wherever. So online voting is the fastest and easiest way to do it. Sir.
Thank you, Andrew. Just a little point, just a thought when I'm listening to this, that I'm not so sure that people are dead set against online voting. I think they're against the process that Chief and Council took to put it in to the EPA. I think that has a big problem with people, that it wasn't brought to the people, it was just done by a BCR originally, correct? So that's just my opinion, that I think maybe people are not having such a problem with it. Charlie's up next.
These days I don't have online voting, but it has to be approved by the people. And if it's approved by the people, then it has to be secured. It has to be secured, because right now, one feather is not a secure online voting. My sister-in-law wanted to vote, but she couldn't get in. My mother-in-law voted, she was able to. There's a lot of people in that same circumstances. Some people are able to vote, some people are not able to vote. And we don't understand why. And the reason why is because it's not a secure practice. It's not an honest voting. It's not an honest democracy voting. It's an easy way to be cheated. And we've seen that from the previous elections, and we're seeing it again. It's not being done properly. That's why, Nina, I don't agree with online voting. And a lot of people did, but we still got it.
Thank you, Charlie.
Thanks, sir. Online voting was brought up about 2 elections ago, right? And yeah, COVID, ego speak Hispanic. So we couldn't gather as a nation. So online voting was the next best option. And it worked. And it worked this past election too. I can ask you a question. Do you do online voting, online banking? I don't. I just go to the bank and do whatever I have to do at the bank. I don't move money around online. I don't trust myself. I'll probably screw that up.
Okay. Well, I'll get to you in a second. I'm just going to go over to Susan. I think that that point that Andrew just made, that during COVID that they had no choice because we couldn't gather, but at the same time we should have used online voting to get our opinion, right?
So, my name is Susan Mino. I was on that steering committee a couple years back, 3 years back. In 2023, we were asked to sit on a steering committee to amend the EPA. So, I, for one, was not part of politics. Sure, I'd show up to meetings and whatnot, but when we looked at the EPA all around, pretty much it was protected by Chief and Council. Regardless of what you do in the EPA, it all came down to leadership. Leadership had control of everything, even amending that EPA. So when we were asked to do this amending and meeting with people, we went ahead with it. Even though we knew in the back of our minds, we said it out loud, this is not going to make a difference at the end. They're going to reject it. And that's what I said at the end was, when we were done, when we completed it, handed it over and came back and said, no, Chief and Council don't want to change it. No, we'll wait. We'll wait till after the next election. And I knew it was going to come down to this, what's going on right now. Back then, we said it back then, there was me, and I don't mean to bring up names, but there was me, Chris Clark, who was on there? Sean Scribe. Janice was our coordinator at the time, Janice Chartrand. There was 5 of us. Huh? Nick was our, Nick Saunders was our, yeah. So whenever we would come back to meet together and, come back after a meeting with so many community members, and it wasn't a big crowd, which was good. I know Krista was a part of a couple of them, Pam, because we needed to hear Pam's, sorry, a little nervous because I work. I work for the band. So we needed to hear Pam, Roy, Hilda, who was on here. We needed to hear their story of what happened with them when they were taken to court. So there's a lot of things in that EPA. I know it's not a big document, but a lot of it, the one Hal brought up, Katie, about taking it to higher court. We were really wanting that removed, where it doesn't go to higher court, that it stays with the people. The people make that choice, who they vote in and who they remove, right? Because that's the way it's supposed to be. That's how our laws were, kayas. And it really frustrates me. Like, it frustrates me about this online voting. I know it benefits a lot of our younger generations because they know how to work the computers, to go online and stuff like that. But at the same time, like, we wouldn't be here right now, right? Because if people are, we talk about how people are not able to comprehend how to vote on paper. So how do we expect these people to vote online, right? And also with One Feather, the problem with One Feather was you couldn't just vote for 3 councillors. 1 chief, 3 councillors, or 3 councillors and that's it. You had to vote for 1 chief and 6 councillors in order for that One Feather to accept your ballot, which wasn't fair. That's what we said. And then when we gave it to chief and council and it came back as, no, you know what, we'll hold off till next election. I said to myself, like, I'll bring this document and I'll say, hey, this is what we tried, to prove to people that we tried changing it. And this is exactly where I should have brought my document. I was telling her about it. But they did, was it Nick and I don't know who was in that meeting. There was a meeting at the Veterans Hall in regards to online voting, and they wanted it passed. But they wouldn't take the whole EPA that was amended to try and bring that to the people. They held off, they put it aside, but they wanted the online voting to be voted on, to be brought into the EPA. And that was rejected. And I commend Sam for that, for stepping in and, stopping that whole voting that night. So for myself too, this could have been all avoided, I say, with the new amendments that were done. Because in the amendments we had said to give the power back to the people, remove everything that says chief and council have last say. We removed all of that. We removed that part, the last part of that section, I can't remember what section, 7 something. At the end of that part it says, in fact, or whatever, where you can take it to higher court, remove it. We removed it. Our legal advisor didn't agree with it. We kind of had back to, going back and forth at it. I said, where I stood up and I pretty much said, like, well, we as a committee, I said, you don't have a say. You're just here to advise us how to change it legally. If you're going to be going against everything we're saying that we're bringing from the people that told us how to change it, what to change, then maybe you should step down and bring somebody else in. So, as for, that's my part about the EPA. I was on that steering committee, and we were for the people. Every one of us that were sitting there, we were for the people. We had our own opinions, but we weren't there for ours, we were there for the people. And this whole thing that keeps getting brought up about I'm sorry, but I really need to say it, but with him handing out fish, he's done it before. Like, it's not the first time he's handed out fish to people, helping people out, and saying it's corrupt practice, then we all are, I guess, you know, helping people out. So that's for me. I really hope that, I was hoping that the whole appeals were open to the public, which is not, and which I think is wrong. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Susan, Pam is going to clarify something.
I just wanted to clarify something and respond to something that was mentioned. On the first page of the EPA, there's a history of amendments. And number one is, in 1997, Norrie House Cree Nation took control of its own election procedures in December 1997. The people of Norrie House Cree Nation adopted Election Procedures Act, which allowed Norrie House Cree Nation to be removed from Section 74 election procedures of the Indian Act, and further assert itself to self-government by taking control of elections for chief and council in Norrie House. I think that's an important thing to remember, that we took control of our own election forms, our election procedures, and it's not to be played with. And now here we are. And I'm also taking another section from the EPA, is that Section 510, each ballot must be marked with an X being placed beside the name of the candidate or candidates for whom the elector intends to vote for, and such instructions shall be clearly posted at the place of voting by the electoral officer. And then there's Schedule C, has the instructions, clear instructions for ballot papers, X or check mark. And in no other voting process will accept a ballot that has writing all over it, multiple check marks, and it also clearly says on the ballot, like, these are legal documents. Like, I don't understand where that common sense is. And another thing that I would like to comment on is that you don't trust online banking, but you trust online voting. That doesn't make sense to me. That's all.
Thank you. I think we had a hand up over here. Geraldine.
It's a good example. I trust online banking because, you know, the bank representatives are not corrupt. At the same time, you know, the last elections, there was a councillor that had posted that, you know, with the online voting, this guy made a comment that he went around the community with his own personal device, assisting band members. Assisting band members at Pinawachi, and people that, you know, are obviously not capable, that have, you know, obvious, you know, some struggling, you know, disabilities, like my brother, who has schizophrenia. And this guy said that he went and supported some of our most vulnerable people to help them cast a vote. For me, I think that is wrong. I don't think that, you know, our people should have been, you know, targeted and then being placed in that position, unless their family was, of course, you know, supporting them and witnessing that actual vote being placed. And, you know, before that guy took down his comment, I wasn't able to screenshot it, but that would have been a good appeal. Because, you know, for him to go to the Pinawachi and get votes from our people that are, you know, obviously stuck in the place. That, for me, I don't trust online voting because of that. Because they could have went and changed those votes and then casted those votes. And there's no witnesses to see it. I'm just saying that there's no scrutineers following this councillor around. Eguse.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Oh, over here. Chris Clark, President, Fishermen's Co-op.
My name is Chris Clark, Sr. Myself, I was one of the members of the steering committee on the EPA amendments, and there was 5 of us, and the committee selected me to be the spokesperson. It was Finema. So our role was to be a non-biased, a neutral group to engage with people and listen and hear and document what changes the people wanted to the EPA. So we attempted to do that, I'll say. One of the major things we heard was the power has to go back to the people, where in that EPA it says chief and council have the final say what's to be presented in the final draft. And the elders recommended that. There was other things the elders recommended. The elders recommended that abstract drug testing for all candidates, and whoever gets into office should have random drug testing. Not to be warned when there's a drug test going to happen, because the elders said that we need leaders with clear, sound minds. There was many other things that people who recommended at the time. One of the main things I wanted to point out, we don't have the ability to be what's to be presented to the people for the final draft of the EPA amendments. It was brought to a public meeting, but that's where it was stopped. The chief and council didn't have quorum. And the people there just said, we asked for more time as a committee too. That was denied. I'm not going against the former chief and council here. I'm just simply sharing the truth. And today I thank everybody for taking the time to come out here and to be heard. And I hope it's important that everybody's opinion, everybody's voice matters. Thank
you. Tapway, it's good to see everybody here and everybody's speaking calmly and there's no fighting. Anybody else got something they want to say? Oh, here we go, Katie again.
With regards to the Corbier decision, the amendment in the EPA, the reason that was so important as an amendment is because we still had to get any amendments had to go through INAC. And we had to get approval before we could do any amendments. And the reason we had to amend it is because if we didn't, we wouldn't be following the Indian Act under Canada's law. And then we as a band would have risked being pulled back into INAC taking full control. That's why it's important to follow that EPA, because we don't want to go back under INAC control.
Thank you, thank you. Anybody else? Oh. What now? Oh, Sam's going to have something to say.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Samantha Folster. I guess the reasoning that we decided to have this meeting, and I'll say we, because there's 20 of us on the list that decided that wanted to support this meeting. And they're in the crowd, they're here. And moving forward, I was like, okay, well, the concern that I had and that we had as a collective is that we've been sitting in the dark for a long time with our finances. We don't know what's happening there, and I'm concerned about that. We had a new elected chief and council come into play, and the things that we have seen and heard, seeing that they're not giving up the information. And I'll say they as in the CFO and his crew. And that's concerning. Who are the bosses of them? Right? We are, as a people, as membership. We shouldn't be sitting in the dark and continuing trying to ask for questions and answers and question, and then there's no answers. It's a simple duty of our CFO, a simple duty of our elected chief and council that we put there. We put them there because we had trust in them to make that decision for us and to support us as a people. And when, we're continuously, and this is why the fighting is happening, and there's a lot of negative information. Everybody's feeling the emotion of what's happening, and it's the frustration of that. One being that is that the finances are not being shared. And why is that? That's, to me, totally wrong as a member of this community. And we always do, we always speak all the time of how we're going to conduct ourselves in a good way. And this is through honesty and integrity, to always do what's right. And I always talk about that. You can go to bed at night knowing that you did right for your people. And, as we see, and I'm listening to the dialogue and trying to understand, okay, everybody is concerned. And I wanted to have this membership meeting because our voice matters, as Chris said. We have a voice, and we need to share that voice at this table in this meeting. We have leadership here that were elected, and I'm happy that they're here. I'd like to thank them for being here today. Alfred, Christina, and Tim. Some of the dialogue and the questions, that I always had, and I did do a video on the EPA back in, after the election of 2022, I think it was, and the concerns that we had about the online voting. Don't get me wrong that I do not support the online voting. The reason why that trust was lost is because of how it was conducted in that election. And being able to review some of the members, and that's our right. These documents should not be hidden. And, reviewing some of those elected people that voted online. There was a 100-year-old person who voted online. 100 years old. And I was like, who's 100 years old in Norrie House or out of the community? That would be our oldest elder, who we should be celebrating their life. But we don't even know who this 100-year-old voter is. And as you go through that list, I was like, some of the people and some of the speculation that people got emails that they voted online, but they really didn't. And some people who had passed away. So these are the things, these are rumors, right? Per se. But then we start feeling that there's no trust. at the end of that election. There was absolutely no trust. That's why the online voting was so voted against this time round. I didn't support the online voting. And, you know, as we, you know, sat around, talked about it even more, we started a petition. We had over 300 signatures on that paper. Nobody listened again. So like we were just totally disregarded as to what we wanted to do. And having conversation with the Norrie House Cree Nation band lawyer, because they knew that I was speaking against this online voting. And he asked, so what are you going to do about it if it happens? You know, just totally disrespected what I was fighting for and against. And to have the band lawyer call me and say those words to me. So I you know, I thought for a long time, like, well, if we're not being listened to, then what do we need to do? Okay, well, this is exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted us, membership of Norrie House Cree Nation, to have a voice. We needed to be here to speak on behalf of our leadership. I have no disregard to anybody that's been elected. It's the process that we're in right now. That's what's happening with the appeals. When, like, I was a counselor before, back in 2014 to 18, and the pressure and the ousting and the arguing and the attacking that I went through as a leader was not good. But I stood there and I went through those 4 years. And we have a voice that we need to stop it. We need to be professional in our ways and not fight with each other. Come to some common ground as how we're going to move forward. And one of the things that that we've seen and heard is I don't agree with how the appeal committee is moving forward and not publicizing these meetings. As members, we have a right to listen to what they're saying because we've put this appeal in their hands to make decisions for us. And it's not right. So I think what I feel anyways at this time is that we need to make that motion today that they need to publicize these appeals so that we can hear as a community, as members, as what's going on. Because I feel that it's being too hidden. In any court proceeding, when anybody's going to court, it's open to the public. Everybody's allowed to sit in the courtroom and listen to what's going on. And that should be the same thing for this process. Why is it being behind closed doors like that? And I'm concerned about that. The hurt and the pain that we feel in this community, I feel it. 100% I feel it. And I think moving forward, we definitely need to change that EPA. That EPA needs to be, that's our document, that's us here members. We own that document. And they're doing things without even letting us know, making changes without even letting us know. A BCR does not trump that people's document. You need 5,000, 6,000 signatures on it. Not the last chief and council. That's what I see. That's the conversations that we've had with many people. And I felt that it was so important for us to gather as a people, as membership of this community. I don't like the arguing and the fighting and calling each other down. I don't agree with that. We need to change something. We need to change something today. I can't wait a year. We can't wait a year. Where are we going to be then? I am very concerned about how the appeal committee is moving forward, and they are not being, they are not abiding by our EPA, just only to the benefit of I don't know what, right? So the EPA is this, oh, but they'll change this to accommodate what? Oh, they'll do this, but they won't do this because now they need to change another thing. So we need to make them accountable as an appeal committee, and to be certain that they are doing things right for us, right? It's for us, not for anybody else. And I did take the time, we talk about the federal government and how we're going to, move forward and saying that we're a part of them and blah, blah, blah. So I took the time to okay, well, is a First Nation community a federal entity? That was one of the things that was spoken about here today. And this is what it states. First Nations communities are not considered a federal entity, department or agency of the Government of Canada. They are distinct, self-determining, Indigenous governments with inherent rights. While under the Indian Act, they are often considered federally regulated for labor purposes and managed through federal statuses. They are not branches of the federal government. We are our own government. We decided to do the EPA, the Elections Procedures Act. That's stating that we want to be sovereign. We want to make our own decisions moving forward. The Indian Act fails our people 100%. It fails. And that's why we cannot say we are federally connected. We're trying to be sovereign. We're trying to do what's right for our people. And as a people, that's what we want to do. So I think, we say that we can't wait a year, but I think we need to hear out this appeal committee when it comes down to it. We need to publicize those appeals starting tomorrow. And if they're not going to do it, then we need to come back and meet again. Because they need to be accountable and transparent to us as a community, as members of this First Nation. With that, there's so much more. Everybody's pretty much said my thoughts and how I've been feeling. That, I don't have to continue to say those things because it's already been said. But I no longer want to be in the dark about our finances, and I no longer want to be in the dark about this appeal committee because it has affected me as a member of this community. And it's not fair. They're going to go sit behind closed doors without us knowing what's actually happening in there. So I'd like to put that motion on the floor today. That motion that that appeal committee needs to be accountable to us, and they need to make it a publicized appeal so that those people going in have support like they do in a regular court system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So there was a suggestion by, let's go to Tina.
Let's have a chance for Panicus on the phone.
Oh, we got somebody on the telephone here. Chance Papanicus. Good day, Chance. I'm going to put you on the microphone close to the, so hopefully we can hear you. Okay?
Okay.
How?
All right. Gatamaskat na aniwa gumaganak. Chance Papanicus nitis nigasun. CP Osunina, Winnipeg, New Egan. Hello, everybody. My name is Chance Papanicus. I am a proud member of the CP Cree Nation, and I am so proud of all of you for gathering together to do what is right for our people and the future generations of the CP Cree Nation. A lot of concerns have been mentioned, and rightfully so. A lot of you have been talking about sovereignty, the Indian Act, the EPA, transparency, accountability, financial access, non-Nori House interference, one feather, specifically online voting, mismanagement, and all of these topics, all of these issues are very pertinent to the functioning democracy of the Kennesaw CP Cree Nation. Someone made a comment earlier about us being a federal entity. That is so far from the truth, because we signed Treaty 5 right in our community. We are sovereign nations. As a Kennesaw CP Cree Nation, we are a sovereign people. We do not need Canada. Canada is a partner. Canada is not the boss, and Canada should not interfere in our elections. Now, with respect to the mention of creating custom code elections, we're doing that to move step by step away from the Indian Act of 1876. The Indian Act of 1876 is the reason why we are all in this very awful situation that we are in today. We are infighting, people are threatening other people, democracy is being disregarded, Indigenous women of our community are being attacked. This is not okay, and this is not who we are as the Inanoak of Kennesaw CP Cree Nation. One thing that I have mentioned in the past on Facebook, and I will continue to mention, is the fact that we can set precedents as a Cree Nation, being the second largest nation in Manitoba. The way we govern ourselves, people are watching us. Moreover, the children, the youth of our nation are watching us. And if we continue to make the same mistakes, so too will they when it's their turn to be chiefs and councillors of our beautiful Cree Nation. Now, I'm not sure if you're all aware, but there is a non-Nori House, non-Indigenous person in charge of our finances, the Chief Financial Officer of the Kennesaw CP Cree Nation, Mike Lee. He essentially has all power over the financial administration of our Cree Nation. That is so wrong. He owns a company called HLL Consulting. A lot of his people are working for our Cree Nation and other facets of our work, like Bison Homes. So we need to delve deep into this issue and do something about this immediately. We're talking about getting rid of online voting. It's been mentioned on Facebook. It's been mentioned last election, this election. Enough talk, enough meetings, get it done. Get rid of it until we can come together as a community and create an efficient, adequate, and actual document that is reflective of who we are as the people of the Cree Nation, of the Kennesaw CP Cree Nation. Now, I would like to pass a motion that I hope the administration of our Cree Nation takes seriously. Seeing as though the CFO and his team are refusing to release financial information, which is rightfully ours as the members of the Cree Nation, I would like to pass this motion. Therefore, be it resolved, we, the citizens of the Nori House Cree Nation, call for our administration to suspend Mike Lee and his entire team for a period of 30 to 60 days, or until all financial documents are released to the incoming leadership. Those documents are ours to have, not Mike Lee's. He has to hand them over now. They are our documents as the sovereign members of this Kennesaw CP Cree Nation. Moreover, when we show our youth, when we show other nations that we're going to exercise our sovereignty, as many of you have mentioned, then let's do so. Again, enough talk, let's do so. Everything that we're all talking about, everything is so valid. These words are coming from my midday, my heart. I'm a hard worker. And again, my people's interests come before anything else.
Thank you so much, Chance. Am I being heard? So, there was a motion put forward by Chance. We require a seconder for that motion, I think. Is this, we're going to do that? Okay. What's your name? Keith Sullivan is seconding that motion. So I guess a show of hands, I guess, is what we're going to go with. And the motion is, again, I'll read it. Where is it? Okay. Okay, there's a motion. Sorry to cut you off there. Therefore, be it resolved that for us, the community, band membership, to suspend Mike Lee for 30 to 60 days or until such time as he provides financial documents that were requested by the people. So Chance Papanik has made the motion, seconder Keith Sullivan. So let's have a show of hands, please. All in favor? Oh, somebody want to count? I can't count past 10. Leave your hands up, please. Oh, what the... Oh, don't worry, I don't think you're going to get fired. If they try to fire you, Lucy, tell them to come and talk to me. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, we're still counting. Huh? 75-4. How many? 76-4. Okay, thank you. How many? Yep. How many against? Oh, 80. So how many against? 0. Okay. So there you go. Hopefully it's taken seriously by the administration. Okay. So I think we're gonna. What are we doing? Oh, there's another motion. Okay, for the motion is, who made the motion? You, Sam Falls. Sam made the motion for the appeal committee to publicize their hearings. Does that mean public? So that the meetings are open to the public and we can view them and see them and all that stuff. So and we need a seconder for that. Jem seconds that? Spec, you're too slow. Okay, let's go with the, where is it? No? Okay then, who are we going to get the second? We'll go with Spec because he had his hands up. So Clayton Daou, seconds. And we'll go with a show of hands, all in favor. You want to count again? Don't make them wait too long. Some people can't hold their arms up that long. Okay, little clarification.
While Sam's counting there, I just wanted to clarify. I've seen a lot of speculation on social media about the 2022 appeals. The appeals were open. It was standard practice to have postings up at the band office and in public places. Nobody showed up, and we had initially planned to have the hearing in the justice room up at the multiplex, not realizing how much room we were gonna need for the equipment, like this stuff, and it was all recorded. And I just want to put that rumor to rest that there was postings, there was posters up at the mall, at the band office, that those hearings were open and there was no conditions. So I just want to, I don't understand why there's conditions this time. Just wanted to settle that.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have 81? 81 in favor. Do we have anybody against? Show of hands. Are you working your camera or voting? Okay, I don't think we have any against, so another 0. So that's, I guess we'll bring this meeting to a close. I want to thank everybody for coming and sharing your opinions, and there's so many that are very passionate about what they shared. We appreciate that, and we appreciate everybody being honest, and we will go from here. And we'll end with a prayer. Who wants to do it? I used to say it to Irvin Clark, or no, what's his name? Who's the guy? What's his name? The priest at United. Yeah? Huh? What's his name? The minister at the United Church. Lawrence. Okay, like I said to Lawrence Moore, keep it quick. Make it quick.
We thank the Lord for this day. Magagagipe, mama we agut tag pinagisto kan tutameg. Kasi mi ko kaya naman to. Magaginagi kan sote yak. In this crowd, no panic. Nanas ko manigutse. Kita ginanas ko mga kaya ko anima. Ikagi wani ko paniguta. Thank you, Lord, for blessing those people that working here. Kami nagisto at kaya atsik. Kap miat to sketch yapets. Minagapets tap me kanini miyaga no sa isigag. Minta tasway ni miyagi tega tisigag iuyag to have a safe journey home. Tagayag. Nagusmay stage yes muan kawin with Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
So thank you, everyone. We will meet again probably in the next, after we have the appeals and the decisions. Thank you.
Hey. God bless you.